Title: 17-year-old Matthew's life unravels when he discovers he's the father to 3 pregnant girls, Sarah, Emily, and Rachel. Matthew Collins had always believed that life was something you figured out in your 20s. At 17, he thought he had time. Time to dream. Time to mess up and get back up. Time to grow. But everything shattered the moment he saw 3 girls, each from different corners of his life, standing silently in the school courtyard, stomachs swollen with consequence, eyes locked on him with a mixture of fear, resentment, and heartbreak. In one crushing moment, his teenage world, once ruled by football games, fast food runs, and weekend hangouts, turned into a storm of guilt, whispers, and irreversible truths. He was the father to not 1, not 2, but 3 unborn children, and each mother carried his past, his mistakes, and the fragments of who he used to be. Yellow circle if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of growth. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Royal Stories. Your support helps us bring more real, raw, and emotional stories to life. Yellow circle. Matthew had never seen himself as reckless. Sure, he was popular. With his tousled brown hair, warm hazel eyes, and a grin that made people feel seen, he was the kind of guy who walked through the hallways like he belonged to every crowd. But he wasn't a monster. At least, he never wanted to be. He had cared for each of them, Sarah, Emily, and Rachel, in different seasons of his short life. None of the relationships had been serious, or so he'd told himself. Just late-night messages, stolen kisses after parties, moments of intimacy blurred by teenage naivety. But what he thought were fleeting moments became life-altering for the girls who now carried a piece of him inside them. Sarah was the first, the quiet artist who had once sketched his portrait for an art assignment. She had eyes like storms, gray and unreadable. They had dated for a few months in sophomore year. She was thoughtful, reserved, and kept her emotions buried like fragile glass beneath layers of calm. Emily came after, a vibrant cheerleader with laughter that echoed across hallways. Her energy was intoxicating, and with her, everything had felt like a game of dares. Rachel, the last, was a new student with a tragic past. Her family had moved to town after a fire consumed everything they owned. She was vulnerable, soft-spoken, and Matthew had found himself drawn to her sadness like a moth to flame. He hadn't meant for it to go this far with any of them. In his heart, Matthew had told himself he had been kind, even gentle. But that kindness now stood trial against the gravity of what had happened. Their lives were forever altered. And so was his. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Whispers turned into taunts. Friends became strangers. His football coach benched him. Teachers looked at him differently. Even the principal called him into his office, not with anger, but with the disappointed look of a father figure who had watched a good kid lose his way. Matthew's mother, a single parent who had worked 2 jobs just to keep them afloat, cried for 3 days. She had raised him better, or so she thought. For the first time in his life, Matthew felt powerless. He spent his days in silence, retreating from everyone and everything. But it was the night of the PTA meeting, when he heard Sarah's mother yelling about her daughter's ruined future, that something inside him snapped. He saw Sarah crying in the corner, her fingers curled tightly around her phone like it was the only thing holding her together. Later, he saw Emily walking home alone in the rain, shoulders hunched under the weight of teenage judgment. Then he found Rachel, sitting behind the bleachers. At school, cradling her belly with tears running down her cheeks like streams of regret. That's when he realized, running away wasn't an option. He couldn't undo what had happened, but maybe, just maybe, he could face it. The first thing he did was apologize, not with empty words, but with action. He asked to speak at the school assembly, and to everyone's surprise, they let him. Standing on that stage, he looked out at hundreds of faces that once cheered his name and now whispered behind his back. With a trembling voice and tear-filled eyes, he confessed everything. Not just what he had done, but how little he had understood about responsibility, consent, pressure, and pain. He spoke not just for himself, but for the countless boys who walked through life without understanding the weight of their actions. He ended with a promise, not to be perfect, but to show up, every single day, for the lives he had helped create. He got a part-time job at a local diner to start saving money. He began attending parenting classes, alone at first, then later, with each of the girls when they felt ready. He offered to support them however he could, without pushing or pretending he had all the answers. Slowly, brick by brick, he began to rebuild his relationships, with the girls, with his mother, and with himself. Sarah, initially cold and distant, slowly allowed him into her world again. She showed him ultrasound pictures and asked for his opinion on baby names. Emily, ever the firecracker, challenged him constantly but couldn't help smiling when he showed up to her doctor appointments. Rachel was the hardest. Her trauma ran deeper than just his betrayal. But after months of small, quiet conversations, she forgave, not because he deserved it, but because she wanted to be free from the hurt. As time passed, the town began to see the change in Matthew. He wasn't the boy they had once adored. He was something different now, quieter, humbler, and deeply aware. He had made mistakes, yes. But he was no longer defined by them. Instead, he was defined by how he chose to respond. By the time the babies were born, within months of one another, Matthew was there for each delivery. He held tiny fingers, wiped away the tears of frightened mothers, and promised to always be present. He didn't pretend to be a hero. He was still learning, still growing. But he had chosen the harder road. The right road. Years later, people would look back and talk about the 17-year-old boy who lost everything and gained a reason to live. They would remember how Matthew didn't run. He stayed. He showed up. And in doing so, he taught an entire town about responsibility, redemption, and the beautiful, brutal journey of becoming a man. Blue circle. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Royal Stories for more real and emotional journeys. Your engagement helps us reach more souls and share stories that matter. Blue circle. Memo special request. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Matthew's place? Let's start a conversation about accountability, forgiveness, and growth.